Alright, let me double check, make sure this is going well. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Alright, cool. Hey guys, welcome back to the Thieves Den Storytime podcast. Today is a bit weird for me, I guess. I mean, let's be real, we all know what happened. And I figured, might as well just talk for a bit about growing up with Dragon Ball Z and some of the stuff I thought about, some of the stuff I've experienced, and just some day-to-day occurrences when I think about it. So if I'm sniffling, I got a little bit of a head congestion, so I'm still working out my system. But first and foremost, obviously, rest in peace to Akira Toriyama. Like it's hitting a lot of people right now. I get that, and it's crazy to think about. But growing up on like Dragon Ball Z and everything, I've always, I mean, I guess I never thought about it as much because I'm always waiting for like the next game. Oh, what's the next game that's coming out? What's the next, like, when's the anime coming back? Are they gonna finally do something with these characters, this character, that character? And I guess I never thought about it. My earliest memories of it, actually, ironically, wasn't even the anime. It was the video games. I think it was the first ever Budokai that I remember playing. And I also remember not being very good at it. But I was young. I didn't know how to play video games like that. I mean, come on. If you guys know the Reddit's minigame specifically, if you know, you know. That one was that one was bound to piss off a lot of people. I better say they ain't gonna put it in the new ones. No siree. Even if they try to remake those games, they're like, nah, we're gonna leave that out because that's probably gonna piss off a lot of people. But because again, when I did watch the anime, I was already well into the, I believe, the Frieza saga. So I kind of knew what Super Saiyan was, but not really. So whenever I started playing through the games or actually watching the anime, I'm just at one point, like from the beginning, I was kind of just like, oh, that's weird. How come Goku just doesn't go Super Saiyan against Nappa and them? Like, because he beat Frieza with it, and he could definitely do that. But also because it was it the old school Dragon Ball Z games that only went up to like the Cell Saga at that point. Because I think it was a bus limited too, so it was kind of just like in your mind, it's like same thing with like when I played through the first Xenoverse game, and like the pinnacle of power was like potential it like for your CAC, so to speak. It was like the potential unleashed or Super Saiyan 2. That was as crazy as it could get. Now you got God, Blue, Ultra Instinct, or like Evolved, like all this other stuff, and it's kind of just like, okay, okay, I see what you guys did with that. But even when I play like Ultimate Tenkaichi, they made your character or your hero stronger, so strong that you going Super Saiyan was just like the pinnacle of your might, which was really cool because then it's like you could fight Omega Shenron, Baby. Like you fought GT level villains, and we're not even talking about Power Scanner right now, but you fought GT level villains, which at the time was the height of like strength as like just a Super Saiyan, which was awesome because again, that was one of the things people were complaining about, which was, oh, you incorporate a new form and then all the other forms suddenly become irrelevant. Which is why I like when they brought in Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, because it's like, okay, yeah, he's using his multiplier again, and he's mixing in with his Gaki. That's actually pretty cool. But then it's like, oh well, now Super Saiyan's irrelevant now. It's like not necessarily because you got like the Universe Six Saiyans who are doing that stuff. I don't really think they need God Key. I think they just need to progress further as Super Saiyans and go from there. Because that would be cool. But my favorite Dragon Ball Z game that I remember playing was I think it was Dragon Ball Z. Well, no, that's a lie. There's two of them. Ironically, they're both sequels. It was Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, the one that's the board game, because I think I would argue that one was way the most creative. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like the board game aspect. I loved it though, because I like board games. You know, go around the map, find stuff, unlock stuff. And then you had like the what if things where it's like Majin Cell, Majin Frieza. And then if they get absorbed by Boo, then you have to fight like a fused version of them and stuff. And then like you could fight people back with like, and granted the story mode was still relatively work the same, but then not really because if you won with a certain character, then it was like okay, cool. I remember like I would surround villains at one point on the board game. I would cut off both corners, and I would have my character stay in one spot and just have the other one circle around each turn. And at that point, it's like, yeah, motherfucker, now you can't go nowhere. You have to go to one side. You don't catch this whooping, or you don't catch that whooping, and that's just how it's gonna be. And then Budokai Tenkaichi 2 specifically for me because, well, quite frankly, I just enjoy that one the most. Like I know everyone says 3 is the best one because it has all the characters and whatnot, and I'm just kind of like, eh. I don't know. I think I like the story mode book. I think Kaiichi too a lot. And the what if scenarios were great because you could play as like they had the one for Raditz, they had the one for Zarbon, which you never really see a what if for characters like Zarbon, which I thought was really cool. And then they just the story modes for like all the other ones like Slug and Turles, and that was fun. You get to play as Bardock, and that's how I knew Bardock was one of my favorite characters. But my favorite characters to play as have always been. Recently, I started throwing in Pycon, but for old school games, it was Piccolo, Bardock, and Gohan. Now, don't get me wrong, my favorite characters are still Vegeta and Gohan, but like when it came to playing the old school games, those are the characters that I kicked the most ass with. Which is why when Sparky Zero comes out, I might have to bring him out of retirement and come back to it. Although I feel kind of stupid because my dumbass thought that like future Gohan when I was younger, I didn't know who he was, so I thought that was like adult Goten from like GT. I was like, huh, he looks different. No, they are very much very different people, and I know that now, which is rather funny. Oh, whoops! I forgot this was still going. Hmm. And I remember I played Dragon Ball Fusions, and that one was actually really fun because you could it's basically the biggest what if scenario. Like, what if Beerus and Whis fused? Like, what if all these other people fused? So on and so forth. And then you could stack fusions, and it was so cool. There's one where you basically can fuse Vegeta. Now the thing is with that game is you can only play with one fusion at a time per person. So like if Goku and Vegeta, for instance, fuse into Vegeta or Gogeta, right? You can't use them for someone else. But there was one where it was like fusing Yamcha and Vegeta, which looked crazy, but it was awesome too. And then the story mode was wacky, and they incorporated so many different characters into it. Like they bring, and that's one thing I appreciate about Dragon Ball Z games is that they all, to an extent, have their own like villains, if that makes sense. Like when you think of Xenoverse, who are the villains of that one? You got Demigra, Toa, Mira, and I guess to an extent Fu. But at the same time, if you also go to like Dragon Ball, was it Dragon Ball Heroes? That one is kind of like where there's hearts, there's food, there's a few other people here and there. Like you got your own original-ish villains with those. Then when you go to the main timeline, it's like, well, who do they got there? It's like, well, take your pick. Saiyan Saga, you got Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta. Then you the Namek Saga, you got Zarbon the Doya, the Ginyu Force, Frieza. Then you got Cell, the Cell Juniors, the androids. Then you got like the Bua, Babidi, Majin Buu, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of just like it's like okay, yeah, I can see how that like works or makes sense. It's like one thing at a time, right? But at the same time, it's one of those things that I really enjoyed about the like stuff. It's just kind of like I don't know what it is about watching Dragon Ball Z. Even if I don't watch the show, sometimes I'll just watch old clips and just hearing them say the lines. Like I guess it's just the fanboy in me, but like when I hear them say the lines, like when Vegeta's like, "You may have taken my mind and my body, but there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps," and he starts saying the line, I'm like, "Yeah." Or like when he's about to fight or like every time I play through like Xenoverse, for instance, and I get to like the Majin Buu saga, and he's about to do the final explosion, he's like, "I know how to get rid of you now," and he starts powering up. It's like, oh, that looks so cool, and I can't help it. Like every time I see it in like a game or whatever, I'm just kind of like, oh, this is about to be good. But at the same time, it's like it's little things like that too, like Gohan going Super Saiyan 2, Goku going Super Saiyan, Vegeta's final atonement. Uh, More recently, actually, once because I used to play Dokkan a lot too growing up, especially when it first came out. Seeing how Dokkan used to be to how it is now is insane. Like the story mode just stopped at one point. Like it really, there's nothing else you can do there. But at the same time, it's actually kind of interesting to think about because it's just kind of like, okay, the story mode stopped. Now what? It's like, well, it's funny you should mention that. Just because it stopped doesn't mean it's like over and done with, so to speak, because they kept adding new units. And every year, the units just kept getting bigger and better. Like, they would recreate scenes from the movies with so much polish that it basically looked like an HD version of those scenes. Now, granted, yeah, they had to, like, make it look a certain way to, like, you know, fit with the gameplay style, but they looked clean. The animations were crisp and beautiful. My favorite one to this day that I remember using the hell out of is what was it called? It was my SSJ2 Gohan from the BoJack movie because that one is really hard for me to get his revive for, but I do like using them. But oh, and actually no, that's a lie. The Family Kamehameha with Goten and Gohan. That is my favorite unit because he's just like and then go. Now, granted, yeah, you could have the dub or sub on. I go for the dub. Like let's be real. I grew up listening to the dub. I like the sub, but like the dub just hits more home to me. And he's like, use every ounce of power if you got it. You come at me. It's so cool. Plus, I just like seeing people combine their attacks and doing team moves. That's just awesome to me. And then they got out Goku and Vegeta, and they had to transform. Same thing with Frieza. Like basically each stage they would transform to a new thing, and they'd get a new move. And I was like, yeah, that's looking good. I kept those units for the longest time, and then Broly came out with Gogeta. I got Ultra Instinct Goku. Like I was on my grind for that game for the longest time until Legends came out, and then when Legends came out, I jumped on that and got addicted. I still remember my old team too. It was because you could hold up to 6 people. It was Super Saiyan Goku, the first one, the red one, Orange Pycon, Green Kaba, Super Saiyan Kaba specifically. Kind of butthurt he doesn't get a Super Saiyan 2, but it's whatever. And then I'm trying to remember. I think blue was the extreme regular Goku because I didn't have anyone that I thought of at the time where I'm like, yeah, this could work. And then I had the purple Super Saiyan Vegeta, from the Janemba thing, the extreme type. Like it wasn't a great team, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, but it was all I had at the time when the game first dropped at least. And I think it was like the red Trunks, Super Saiyan Trunks. Again, these are like really old units, which is why I'm really glad they got Zenkai now because Jesus Christ, they are ass in the new meta. Yeah, looking at those, the funny thing is though, I still hold on to those units, specifically the Cabba one and the Pycon, because that Cabba one's good for my Universe 6 team, and then the Pycon one is like my go-to orange. Like he's my all or nothing heavy hitter, quitter. Like I have the other Pycon that does his thunder shoot and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but guess what? He doesn't also have the chance to stun when he hits. And that Bicon and that Cabra have carried me through matches. And I bullshit you not. Type advantage or not, they got the job done. So yeah, those are my boys. Those. But yeah, when I used to play Budokai, I remember I liked using Goku because he had the most transformations. But when I played Budokai Tenkaichi 2 specifically, my go-to characters that I loved using was Bardock, Ultimate Gohan specifically. What was the other one? Goku Mid. What was it Goku Mid? No. I think that was a Budokai Tenkaichi. It was early and end Goku, I think. So the one that only goes Super Saiyan because I like using his angry Kamehameha because when he gets mad and does it, like he doesn't just go like I'm angry. No, he goes like "Darn you!" and just launches it with one hand. And it looks so cool. And I think his ultimate was like the warp comment or the warp or insta comment, however you choose to word it. Like I love the old school transformations though. Like especially three because we never really see three like that after the Boo saga. So when they do show it off, I'm like, oh yeah. But obviously, because it's a bunch of hair, it's probably a pain in the ass to animate. So they probably that's probably why they don't do it anymore either. Like, how about you want to bet Super Saiyan God specifically came out because they were like, look, we can't just keep drawing Goku with more hair, okay? It's fucking with our animators, and it's really hard to animate. Can we trim it down a bit? And he's like, I got y'all. God key. Boom. Simplicity. But one of the things I liked about like Xenoverse is like the aesthetic. It's like, oh yeah, you can make your own character, you can create your own Saiyan or person or whatnot. Because I know I think there's like Dragon Ball Online lets you make your own android and like or like subspecies of like characters. And I'm like, that's really cool, because Xenoverse 3 once they if they ever release that, right? They need to have that specifically. They need to have the androids, the demon realm people. What was the other one? Maybe the wolves, like Bergamo and all them. Like I'm talking about just for like classes. I mean, obviously, like you can mix it up and whatnot. Because people would lose their mind. It's like, oh wow, I can fight as a werewolf or something. That's gonna be awesome, and so on and so forth. Plus, I think it'd be a nice little variation for people too. And then, but again, it just depends on how much they're willing to, let's say, shell out for that game. Because they could really make it good. Although the story mode would be weird though, because how many times can you retell the same story with slight variations? Like it would be like, oh wow, we're going through the Sand Saga again where Goku and Vegeta are fighting, or Goku and Vegeta are fighting, and it's like, oh no, Broly's here. It's like, nigga, what? Because then you have to explain like, okay, well, explain to me how this base form Goku and Vegeta don't get one shot immediately by Broly, and then you have to just get rid of them. It's like, because that was the one that got me when I played when it was like Majin Vegeta versus Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Broly's just in the background. It's like, uh, uh, okay, like they didn't show up to fight during the Android saga itself, and Broly's just here now because, and you just had to beat his ass for a bit, and then afterwards it's like, okay, I got to have my fight with Kakarot. Thank you. I'm gonna go fight Boo now. It's like, well, okay, cool, noted. I guess. But when it came to Xenoverse, I thought the first game had the better story, the second game had the better gameplay. Because when you were transformed in that game, you get unlimited ki, and that is fucking cheap. But yeah, I do think the story mode in Xenoverse 1 was loads better. What else was there? I still haven't played the card games, but I did collect a few of the cards actually from when I was in Japan. I still got them too. I got like a Caulifla, I got a Kale, I got a Time Patroller. Was it? No, not Trunks. It was Gohan. And then I got Time Patroller Vegeta, and I think Xeno Goku. But which again I really enjoy because like even if I don't ever play the game, I did want to play it on the little machine they had. But even if I don't play it, it's nice little memories, souvenirs, and whatnot. And if you guys are wondering who these two are specifically, the guy on the right is Snow. The girl right next to him is his wife Ebony. They are both made, well, actually, sort of. So Snow originally had like the short. Y'all seen what his hair looks like, but I changed it up because I get it. Saiyans keep their hair; it doesn't change. Cool. But when I make different characters, occasionally I change their hair when I want to remake them. So old school look, short hair. New school look, tied back hair like Trunks. But I did give him a white tail because I thought that was cool. And yes, Cat Bur is one of my favorite characters. So, but at the same time, it's like, well, what's the what's the difference now? It's like the only character I didn't really change like that was Ebony because she belonged to a friend. It's a friend I don't talk to no more, but since I still have them and they're both still mine, I don't know. Guess I keep it as a memento. But one thing I always find myself coming back to when it comes to Dragon Ball Z specifically is the anime scenes, the quotes, the lines, the dialogue. Like I'll always go back to like Battle of Gods when Goku is fighting Beerus and he's like, "I will not let you destroy my world," and he just like starts roaring like a beast and just starts like coming up to the pavement, and then like him and Beerus are just going like hand to hand, toe to toe, or like blow for blow, just bah, 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 bah. And it's so cool, right? And then, and I don't know what it is. Something about watching those old clips too, just like they get me hyped. Like, like you can, because sometimes when you're reciting the quotes with them, or like when they're charging up the attack, you start charging up with them, and like you can feel it in your muscles getting tense. You're like putting everything you got into it to like you're like yeah, it's so cool. And I think that's one thing I enjoy about it too. It's like the fandom itself is very confusing but interesting. They're a bit weird, but they're also passionate. They make a lot of artwork, and they make a lot of cringe. Like that's a joke I've heard before. It's like Dragon Ball Z people don't watch their own show. It's like, yeah, that's because sometimes people become on some crazy takes about it too. And it'll just be they'll say like the most wild shit, and it's like, dude, do you even watch the show? It's actually been addressed, established, and like debunked everything you just said. Like I think at one point someone said like, oh yeah, no, if Chilai touches Broly's thing, he would actively beat the ever living shit out of her, and I was like, she did that once, and he just said don't touch it, and then she stopped doing that. Plus, I'm pretty sure she's like the only person who can get away with doing that because everyone was like, oh, the people that don't like DBS Broly. They're like, how come he's not more like Z Broly? I don't actually like Z Broly. I thought he was boring as shit. Specifically because, and it wasn't because my friend liked him. Like it's like you could like whoever you want. Here's the thing. I get it. Broly's like the Super Saiyan of Super Saiyans. He's big, bulky, and powerful, and evil as shit. And he's incredibly brutal, which I can get behind because I'm like, yeah, brutal beatdowns, hell yeah. Actually, that's another what if storyline I remembered where all the villains specifically just beat the people. Like Bojack beats Gohan. I think it was like Janemba beats Gogeta. Shenron beats Gogeta. Frieza beats Goku, I think, or so on and so forth. Or Broly beats Goku, and I think Frieza fought Vegeta. But like basically, it was like, oh man, all of our heroes have fallen because of the combined might of these villains. But because none of these villains got along with one another and didn't want to share conquering the planet or just blowing it up, they were all locked in like a five-way deadlock civil war over who got to rule the earth afterwards. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's like what happens when the bad guys win? The villains fight it out amongst themselves, pretty much. Ay, that's fun. These old memories of mine. But that's something I'm always like thinking about. It's just like I remember some people are and that's the thing too. That's why I always question the fandom. Sometimes I say always, and sometimes that doesn't make sense. But when it comes to like the Dragon Ball Z fandom or the Dragon Ball Super community or whatever, right? I'm not gonna say they don't have some good points here and there, some good moments. But like, there's always the same thing where people are like, people don't really like Chi Chi. It's like they're like she. It's like okay, she nags too much. She doesn't get the point of like. I was like, no, no, I get that part too. Okay, she like I don't like. Here's the thing. Growing up, I was kind of like, wow, she's annoying because again, she's a mother. She reminds me of my mother to an extent with all the nagging, but specifically with it, it was like, okay, she just wants the best for her kids. I get that. However, there's not going to be a planet left for him to become a scholar and get and live out his dream afterwards if he doesn't fight. And again, Gohan doesn't really like fighting. He'll do it if necessary, but like he doesn't. But like typically, he like it's one of those things of like he has all the power in the world. He just doesn't utilize it if he doesn't feel like he needs to. But I don't know. Gohan himself has always been a mixed bag because you got people who are like, why can't he be like he was in Super when he was like fighting Cell? I was like, he was forced to. I was like, he was kind of forced to do that one. Like, if he didn't, everyone because no one else was strong enough. Gohan had to step up to do it because Goku saw the power he had that could beat Cell. Because Goku himself admits that he's not strong enough. And then what was it? And everyone's like, how come he didn't turn to like Future Gohan? Future Gohan was in the worst possible timeline, and it hardened him and made him into like what he was. Bear in mind, he didn't want to be in that life. He was still Gohan at the end of the day. He was just forced to toughen up because if not, the androids were gonna just stomp him, which they ended up doing anyways. Especially when he tried to 1v2 them. Man, the Kakarot version of it was sad. Like that man really put all he had in the blast. They get up afterwards, and he transforms out of like instinct, and it's just kind of like, but he has no energy left, and it's like, oh no. That being said, though, I do like his revive unit in Dokkan because like he's like, you know, you can't win, and he like transforms. He's like, even if you manage to kill this body, someone even stronger will rise up and take my place. And he's like, sure, and his aura flares up, and you're like, yeah. Now that's what fucks with me about Xenoverse though is like they have a future Gohan just casually there, and this is where you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit because I'm assuming it's not the same Gohan that Trunks himself specifically knew. I think it's like a different timeline for a different Gohan where he's like, yeah, no, Trunks died in my timeline, So I became like the hero of that world or whatever. Or at least that's what I'm assuming happened because I can't explain why he's just there. Like I'm sure they might say it in the game, but I'm just really confused when I think about it because I'm like, okay, that's cool, I guess. And the whole time Gohan is just like, wow, it's so crazy to see all these people again because they've been dead in my timeline. It's just kind of like, and they're just like, why doesn't he just join the Time Patrol? It's like nobody really knows, so it's like, you know. But at the same time, it's one of those things of just kind of like I remember that one cutscene. It was like first it was Vegeta trying to fight Topo, God Destruction. Few was messing with that. Then there's like a fuck ton of Janimbas, and Trunks is getting somehow getting work. And it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And then like Future Gohan, I think he's like in his base form too. And bear in mind, Future Gohan was not that strong. He just kicks one of them off to the side. Then you have this. It's a really cool scene, mind you, but the way it's messing with my head is like, I'm assuming this version of Gohan, who is my mentor at the time, is not Trunks' Gohan. I think he's like a stronger Time Patroller variant of himself. Because then it's Super Saiyan Gohan and Super Saiyan Blue Goku just tag teaming all the Janimbas and just whooping the shit out of them. I was like, there's no way in hell Gohan would just casually keep up with that. But I was like, I guess he's okay now. But again, that's one of the things I always thought about was like, because the way my friend described this to me at some point, he's like, some characters are put into a story specifically to just die. That's it. They're there to be a sacrificial martyr to push someone further into like a story. Think like Uncle Ben or like Batman's parents or whatnot. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get that to an extent. But at the same time, I thought about it too, and I was kind of just like, was Gohan just there, future Gohan just there to die? Like, was that the whole point? Was that he was supposed to push Trunks into like his like rage to like Grant Trunks could already kind of go Super Saiyan, but this was like him officially like doing it at that point. But again, I think it like messes with the impact of the story to just randomly be like, yeah, he's revived and he's in this new timeline and whatnot. It's like, why? Because the whole point behind Trunks' thing is that he lost everything. Like he never knew a life outside of fighting because that was just how his future turned out. And then afterwards, he tries to make a better like time with it after he brings peace. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking stuff. But yeah, the fandom is also really weird too because like not even just kind of like Chi or shipping or who they like more as like the females in the thing. Because I know some people are like, oh, 18 is the best person, or like, oh no, it's 21. Or, oh no, this is my thing is like this. I don't give it. I don't really care for like shipping and whatnot. The show, but at the same time, I do think it's hilarious for like certain things where like people get really ornery about power scaling. It's like don't get me wrong. Like people always got on Gohan when Gohan wasn't fighting. My thing is like I'm fine with Gohan living his dream. Because at a certain point, you could be like, oh, well, it's just going to be Goku and Vegeta. They're going to be the only ones relevant. It's like, they're also the only ones training outside of, like, Tien and a few other people. What? Krillin's a cop. 18's a mother. Bulma doesn't fight. Chi-Chi doesn't fight. Videl, I think they said she, like, has a martial arts school where she teaches people to fight. But again, she's not, like, exactly a heavy hitter. Like, even with the tournament thing, trying to, like, help people shake off their rust or whatnot, that didn't work for certain characters. And then and then the whole thing with Roshi's like, oh, he was actually training in secret. I was like, that's stupid and a cheap way to what? Because at least with Android 17, that kind of makes sense. Because he's like, yeah, I'm an android. I have limitless stamina. So whenever I'm not with my family, I'm out training. It's like, okay, I can believe that. Again, Android don't need to really rest like that, do they? and then same thing. It's like okay, cool. But then with Gohan, it's always a weird subject with him because people are like, well, if he's not fighting, he's not interesting. It's like, true. But because again, it's a battle show. Like, you want to see people fight. Because when you don't see them fight, then it's just kind of like, well, then what the hell is the point of him being here? And everyone's like, and then at some point they're like, yeah, Gohan was going to be the main character, and then Goku was going to get passed on, and he was going to like pass the torch, so to speak. Yes and no. Like I think Goku would have made more sense in the Mentor War, like towards the end of Z, where he was training Oob by that point. That way you could still have like Oob and Pan and them learn to do stuff and like deal with other threats, and then Goku could just kind of walk. Like Goku would still be training, obviously, to get stronger, but he would be like he would be watching out for these people, and then when a threat that was too great for them to handle came in the way, he would be forced to step in again and be like, okay, now it's my turn to fight, and then he'll show off a new form or a new power, and they'll be like, "Whoa, that is incredible!" And then they see that power, and then they want to achieve it, or they want to like push past it and get higher, stronger than that. It's like, yeah, but again, it's also one of those things of just kind of like, I mean, look, it is what it is at this point. If they don't do anything with certain characters, then there's not. Because again, even when it comes to stuff like Dragon Ball, for instance, right? Like the OG characters at the time, there's only so much they're gonna realistically be able to do with someone like Yamcha or Tien or like the human characters like Launch or even Roshi and them. It's like their time in the story has kind of been moved past because it's like their relevancy is just like they can't really do anything on this grand scheme of things. You could make up whatever training you want to get them like higher up there now, but realistically, it's gonna be like, what would they even compare to? Like, because again, you can even make the argument of like, oh, well, we're power scaling. Everyone's way stronger now than they used to be just because of how everyone else is. It's like not necessarily true because some people might still be fine at the level they last fought at. That's like it's called stagnating. Unless they realistically push past their limit somehow, I don't see that happening. But I guess I'm just overthinking stuff. I mean, hell, even Beerus's power comes into question though, because now as you think about it, it's like, uh, how did he? It's like, how strong is he? Is he as strong as when he fought Goku and Super Saiyan God? Is he way stronger now? Is he stronger? Is he weaker than Ultra Instinct? Stronger than Ultra Instinct? It's like his stuff has been so inconsistent as of late. Now you can make the argument of like, okay, yeah, he used 80% of his power. Once he realized there was a mortal that could catch up to him like that and make a good rival for him, he started training again, or he started taking his training at least more seriously. I was like, yeah, that's a decent argument to an extent, but we also don't know what his growth rate is or anything like that. Like maybe he's a prodigy. Like him and Champa might be like the best people in his like race that could just be like that could just gain strength like a sponge. But no clue. They haven't fully explored it yet, which I find funny because even Legends was like, "Hey, Beerus is gonna go like all out, Goku. You need to leave, otherwise you might die." So he just Whis takes him away, which I thought was fun. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna try to take this guy out. So we're gonna figure this." And then like at the end, like Beerus technically loses just because the power he was going against was technically beyond something he could do. But it was also one of those things of just like, nah, I got this. He's like, this thing can't hold me forever. I will eventually get out. He's like, yeah, that's true, but I should be done by then. It's like, well, we'll see. And then Beerus is just kind of in a bubble, so it's like, oh, he's like, I'll break out of this eventually. Although one of my favorite scenes of his was like in Xenoverse One, where like everyone's like, oh, he throws the thing, Goku stops it the first time. He throws the second one, Goku blacks out, and then your character's just staring at it like, I don't know if I can stop this thing, and then like Demigrod's off in the corner, and then Beerus immediately turns and launches it at him. He's like, I knew you were there the whole time, by the way. and it's like, yeah, I get to fight with Beerus. Also, I like that game because it actually shows Trunks putting up more of a fight and then also transforming more. So I'm like, yeah. Plus the like evil supervillain versions of them with the like super dark auras and hair and everything and the red eyes, like they look so much cooler than they do in the second game. Like the supervillain versions, they look badass. It's awesome. They look edgy as shit, but they look badass. The movies are always fun though. You got Lord Slug, you got Cooler again. You got Janimba with like you got the Otherworld stuff, you got Trunks' stuff, you got Bardock stuff. You got the other thing with Bardock where he somehow becomes Super Saiyan for some reason. Can't even, don't even get me started on Team Four Star. That whew, they are so much fun. Like hell, I started watching them in high school, and when the first season came out, I was watching that because my friend got me introduced to it, and then over time I just started watching it again, again, and again. I had some, I had some episodes memorized at one point, and I was just kind of like, you know what? I like this. I like this a lot. Every now and then I go back to like watch some of the movie specials that they made. Not necessarily the season, like the first season or the second season or anything like that, just because I've watched those to death. So it's one of those things that just kind of like, I'm good. Like no joke is funny the hundredth time you heard it, or at least not as funny. Let me rephrase that. Especially when you know what the punchlines are. Oh man, I should watch the Hellsing too, because that one was also fun. I might have to make some time to myself to just binge them. Oh. One thing I do respect Ultimate Takaichi for is just helping me make my character Snow because I really like his outfit now, which I couldn't have made before without the character customization. And I'm so happy I got him like drawn out now. Because I can use it as a ref to get other things done with him, art related wise. And then I don't know. I guess I'm just waiting to see when Sparking Zero comes out. Like, it's supposed to be the most hype anime game ever, but if it turns out ass, I'm gonna be really upset. Because people have been hyping the shit out of this game ever since its announcement or its original concept. They've been modding games to make a fourth one. Like, they want official fourth Budokai Tenkaichi. But that makes me nervous too, because the way games have been going nowadays, I swear to God, if I find out this game is live service or something, I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. But guess we won't know until later, huh? I remember I used to watch Dragon Ball Z on Toonami too. That was also a fun time. Also, I don't know what it is, but watching people in anime train or whatnot, that hypes you up and makes you want to go train. Like I'll be watching them like practice punches and kicks and do like all these exercises, and I'll be like, damn, I need to hit the gym. I need to get my money up and get my weight up and like get like some muscle in. Like obviously, I'm not fighting some intergalactic aliens, but you could always do with some more like health in your life. I guess would be a good way to describe it. Sorry, guys. I guess I was just kind of waffling now, but I think we both know at this day and age, Dragon Ball Z is gonna be alright. They got some good hands for them, you know. And I'm interested to see what the future holds. Be it good, be it bad, be it whatever. And yeah, I think we'll be all right. I'm gonna call it here for now though, because I'm a little bit tired. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all when I see y'all. Peace.